It's a well-known fact that in order to live a generally happy and successful life, health is super important. With the PE project around the corner, I started to evaluate my own lifestyle. Who better to ask about living a healthy, balanced life than my Ashtanga yoga instructor uncle? In case if you've never heard of Ashtanga, it's a form of yoga that was invented in Mysore, India in 1948. It's considered to be one of the most difficult forms of yoga because it's gravitated around the focus of breathing in difficult positions and situations rather than just the physicality and stretching of yoga. My uncle happens to be a level 2 certified Ashtanga yoga instructor, so I interviewed him and asked him some questions about his Ashtanga lifestyle. And I found 3 things that really resonated with me that I think anybody can apply to their everyday life.
Yoga. The style of yoga that I do is called Ashtanga, and I'm probably going to cover a lot of your questions with this answer alone, maybe. We'll just get into it, I guess. You know, the one thing that really attracted me to this style of yoga was the fact that it was a set sequence. And my mind, like so many people nowadays in our modern society, is like always busy. You know, like a lot of people are like ADD, or maybe they're not actually diagnosed as ADD, but we are multitasking. We're doing too much. You know, we're like overworking the minds and stuff. And the fact that it was a set sequence that you memorize, some people find rigidity in that, but I actually find freedom in that. You know, you just simply follow the routine, and then you can shut your mind off. You know, and it's really a beautiful way to find like a moving meditation. You know, when you do this sequence enough times, you get into that state where you're not thinking about what's next. You're just doing. Interesting. I mean, with anything that you want to be good at, it simply takes time and repetition of doing it. We can learn if we just stay dedicated.
Okay, so that right there was immediately something that stuck out to me about this whole interview. And of course, I cut out some of it because it was a little bit long. But to get to the point, he mentioned that him having a set sequence or routine that he lives by each day, it's become a pattern for him that helps him do what he's called a moving meditation. A moving meditation is when you have a shift of consciousness while completing simple movements or tasks. It can be considered a meditative state. That's why it's called a moving meditation. For example, walking, cooking, yoga, singing, making the bed, getting dressed, they can all be considered forms of moving meditation. I also know that having an effective routine or set sequence is amazing for your emotional, cognitive, and social development. I know that it's supposed to have an impact on your mental health with problems such as depression. Whenever you can get yourself out of the bed each morning and accomplish something, that's really good for your mental health and something that I think everybody should try and do.
When people first look at Ashtanga from like an outside perspective, what people usually see are lots of difficult postures, and they usually see pretty fit or strong people doing Ashtanga. So initially people's minds are that, oh, this is a very physical practice and it's just for young people who are bendy, you know, or bendy and strong, whatever. But really, in my opinion, that's not the hard part of the practice. These hard postures, they're just things, and with repetition, we can learn to do things. That's not really the hard thing. What is really hard about the practice is the dedication that it takes. We do this 6 days a week, and we do it for like a lifetime or, you know, a long time, you know, and that's how the nervous system really learns these new motor skills, these new movements, is through repetition, trial and error, over and over again. And I find that young people don't always have that yet. Like sometimes we don't have enough life experiences to like deal with like, you know, like hardships. So if you get injured or this or that or whatever, sometimes we're like, oh, this isn't for me, and you quit, you know. But like older people who have like suffered a little bit in their lives already, who have maybe gone through tough times, realize that like, you know, things don't always have to be comfortable. Things don't always have to be fun or exciting or glamorous. But like they understand the value of like hard work.
Yeah.
And now not all old people, not all young people fall in those categories. I'm generalizing, of course. But most of my students are 40 and up, where if you look at the poses, you would think it'd be for 40 or below. You know, you think like 20-year-old gymnasts would be the ones who excel at this, but typically not. So my oldest student right now is 73.
Oh, wow.
He's a former construction worker. He's like a little short guy who's like really strong and thick. You know, he's like real muscular. But he is stiff as a board, you know? So he's not like the typical flexible yogi you would think of, you know? But he is dedicated. He shows up every single day. And that's what I always tell people is my ideal student is not someone who's really bendy or strong or physically able and can do everything. My ideal student is someone that's dedicated and shows up, because that I can teach. You can't really teach motivation to people. That's hard.
So my uncle mentions that dedication is really important in the Ashtanga world. You can't just show up to Ashtanga once a month and expect to really improve. So being able to dedicate yourself to the routine is very important. And I thought to myself, that's what a routine is. It's dedication to what your schedule is or what your set out plan is. Maybe is there a story behind like how you got into the yoga or like a personal motivation?
Sure, yeah. As you know, I was in the Marines also when I was younger. And so I joined when I was 19 and I got out when I was 23. And during that time, I started getting like just excruciating back pain, like to the point where like I could hardly bend over in time, like lace my boots. But I was like, I'm like 22 years old. Like I don't think that surgery is the first thing I want to jump into. I want to see if I can learn more. So I started studying like anatomy and started studying functional movement and like the body. So in my mind, it was like, I must be moving wrong. So I just wanted to really study movements. And that kind of led me to yoga and led me to Ashtanga.
My uncle mentions that his personal motivation was to help cure his back pain. He found Ashtanga and has fully committed himself to it for the past 12 years. In life, we need to find our personal motivation. It's so important because if we don't have a personal motivation, there's no reason for us to dedicate ourselves to anything. And without dedication, we don't have routine. We just have things that we did that day. Over time, our motivations may change, which is fine, but that means that we need to find a new reason for us to continue to dedicate ourselves. If we can't, then maybe it's time to find a new way of doing things that works with your current goals. So Ashtanga, I remember when you came here, you were talking about how it's different from like other types of yoga, but could you tell me again like what makes it Ashtanga?
Yeah, of course. Ashtanga is rooted, its birthplace was like Mysore, India. One thing that makes it different from other styles is that we practice in what's called a Mysore method. Okay, it's called Mysore, named after the city it is from. But the Mysore method is similar to like Montessori style schooling. You have lots of people of different ability levels and different ages sometimes in the same classroom, all working on different projects. And that's kind of how Ashtanga is. Like the Mysore method, my class runs, between 3 and 5 hours in the morning. I have a big window of time. And it's not a 3 or 5 hour class. It's like open gym. You show up within that window, and then you work on the stuff that I've assigned you to work on. The stuff that we've kind of agreed together, like what works for your body, what's not hurting you, what's helping you. Wow. And that's like one of the main differences with Ashtanga and other styles.
Could you tell me about what your daily routine looks like?
I teach early in the mornings, and for me personally, but many of us prefer to practice before we teach. So we're like mentally, emotionally, and physically prepared for like dealing with other people. Other people's energy can sometimes be chaotic, and it makes you feel chaotic. Yeah. Well, if I take care of me first, if I like do my practice, then I feel like emotionally and mentally available. I feel like I can now handle and work with people better. I'm a better teacher that way. I get up at 2 a.m. and I usually like a slow morning, but that usually takes me about an hour to hour and 15 minutes. And then when I get into the shala, sometimes I'll sit in the infrared sauna on cold days to warm up my body even further if needed. And then I usually start and finish around 3:30. So I have about an hour and a half-ish where I just kind of prepare myself. And actually during that time, I try to be completely silent. Other than maybe whistling for chai to like do this to keep my mind kind of fresh feeling. I try to stay off my phone. I try to not read a book or not watch TV or anything like that. Not talk to Sarah. And just keeps my mind very just fresh. She doesn't want to talk anyway that early. She wants to sleep. When I'm on my mat, I feel like less of that like ADD like pull. Like, oh, I should do this, I should do that, So that's kind of my morning how I prepare. And then I begin teaching. Usually I'm teaching somewhere between like 5 or 5:30 up to like 9:30, maybe 10:30. And after I eat, then the rest of my day is around the property. Splitting wood, mowing the lawn, putting mulch on the flower beds or weeding. Just taking care of the property. I spend a lot of my days outdoors, which I love. It's good. I think it's good for the mind and good for our health. And I typically have dinner around 5 p.m. and then go to bed no later than 8.
example, do you recommend these things that you do?
What I do recommend for people is consistency. So I actually just, I've always been a big proponent of like, people ask like, how do you get up so early? It's because I do it every day. Even my day off. Today is my rest day. I slept until 4 today. So like, it didn't throw my schedule off that much. Normally I get up at 2, I slept until 4. 2 extra hours feels amazing once a week.
So we've talked a lot about the benefits for you and for your students. Would you say that there's any disadvantages that you would note that you maybe notice in your own life or with your students?
So like anything in life, we can take good things to the extreme. We can become addicted to things, and like some people are so into healthy eating, they actually develop a fear of unhealthy eating, and that becomes like a mental disorder, and we can do that with Ashtanga. We can become so type A and so like rigid with ourselves, with our diet, with our schedules, everything, that we lose the joy in life, So also like with a physical practice, if you are pushing yourself, you're like physically to the max every day, good chance you're going to develop an overuse injury. So I think we have to learn moderation, because we can become fanatics about anything,
Yeah.
So yeah, like in yoga, like, there's a lot of balancing postures. We're trying to balance, like in a handstand, we're trying to balance so we don't fall. But it's like a metaphor. I mean, like, we are trying to find balance in life. We're trying to figure out, this balance between effort and ease. Too much effort, we go crazy. Too much ease, we become lazy.
Of course, balance is very important in yoga and obviously in life. This is something almost everyone already knows, but it's still a nice reminder to have at times. It's all about finding the happy medium. For example, you want to work your mind and body, but you also want to rest them. If you only work, you'll burn out, but if you only rest, you'll become out of shape. Nowadays, we're so busy multitasking, but not actually moving, especially with technology. But if we only do physical work, our brains aren't as sharp. We need to find the balance of body, mind, movement, and rest. This was a great reminder because lately I've been on the restful side of life. So it was nice to remember to find that rest, work, body, mind balance. Earlier on, I mentioned that Ashtanga is very focused around breathing through difficult positions. I think it goes without saying that breathing is definitely something very important in life and in the study and practice of Ashtanga. If you look at my uncle's arms, they literally say, I inhale love, I exhale love. If we look at what the Ashtanga art believes in, it's that breathing is the center of life, or life is gravitated around breathing. I think the takeaway is we literally need to breathe in order to live, but it also gets us through life. It helps us get through pain, suffering, sorrow, exhaustion, happiness. And Ashtanga focuses on being able to breathe through difficult positions. So I see it as, well, if you're ever going through a hard time in life, you can think to yourself, well, if I could breathe with my neck tucked behind my butt, I can definitely breathe through this. I took this FaceTime call with my uncle, or interview, as a really good reminder. I'd written down some of the good ideas and good habits and routines that I should apply to my life. So following the advice of my uncle, I made my routine board and revised it afterwards because I actually already had this routine board. Though I didn't actually change my routine, I thought about my personal motivation. My personal motivation is to be able to travel as much as possible while I live in Europe, and the time is running out for me, so being able to get ahead on my schoolwork so I have that feeling of freedom is super important to me.
Sorry for waking
Hey, did you
you up
see our
early.
video?
What
Have
video?
you looked at it lately?
What video?
The one we made?
Oh yeah, I just looked at it yesterday.
It's up to 998,000 views. It's almost 1 million.
That's crazy.
Oh my god. 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 Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's gonna hit 1 million, I think, in like a week or so.
I hope so.
Yeah, it'd be
Oh
cool
my
to
gosh.
have. I've only had one other post ever make 1 million views, so it'd be cool to have a second one.
This one will make
Yeah.
it. I can feel it. I can tell.
Yeah.
All right. You you say hi to Chai and Aunt Sarah for us.
Will do.
All
All
right.
right. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye. Love you guys.
In case if you're wondering, that video was filmed on New Year's Eve of 2022, and by 2023, our Instagram reel did hit 1 million views.